Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokémon Horizons episode 18, Flying Pikachu to the Skies. This was the 1250th episode of the Pokémon anime, and it was all about Friede and Captain Pikachu's backstory. Let's break down what happened. The episode opens with a shot of the Brave Asagi, and they set a very different tone for this episode. Like, they didn't even play the opening like they usually do. Liko, Roy, and Dot are talking about how Captain Pikachu seemed to fly in the last episode, and they just want to learn more about Cap in general. Dot admits that she's never asked about Cap's backstory herself, and the three of them get excited to investigate. Liko and Roy want to go ask Friede about this, but Dot has an idea. Yosu, Pokemon trainers, it's time for a video from the Liko Roy channel, and they filmed their best Nido Thing parody as they go to ask Friede about Cap. And Friede is not having any of this. He teases them by calling them Nido Thing's apprentices, and Dot chimes in by saying this could be the video that goes viral, and even quotes Iono from a few episodes ago, which was a nice touch. Anyways, Liko and Roy cut to the chase and start asking if Cap can fly, but Friede isn't giving too much away. The kids keep pushing him for more info, which just makes Friede uncomfortable, and he just says that Cap is Cap. Wow, how descriptive. So, feeling pretty disappointed about how that went, Dot suggests they ask the rest of the crew. Molly and Murdoch don't really have much to say, but Ludlow seems to know a little bit more. While he talks vaguely about Friede meeting Cap, Quaxley hops on Ludlow's leg to join him in fishing, which was adorable. So now we know that Friede meeting Cap led to the start of the Rising Voltacklers, but we still need more info. Orla seems to know Friede better than the others, and she points out that Friede doesn't like talking about his past or being on camera. Orla continues by revealing that she and Friede grew up together in Kanto, but she eventually moved to Hoenn. This catches Liko and Roy's attention, who really do have the excitement and energy levels of little kids. They want to know more, and so Orla gets on the intercom system to make an announcement. She says that she's going to tell the story of how Cap and Friede first met, and that everyone should come to the meeting room. Friede runs halfway across the ship in about half a second to investigate this. He clearly is not a fan of this idea or revealing his backstory. Orla knows how to push Friede's buttons though. It makes a lot of sense that these two were childhood friends. The rest of the crew have quickly gathered as well, excited to tease Friede and learn more about his past. Friede finally gives in. He sits everyone down and announces that he's going to tell his story, not only of how he met Cap, but also how this led to the formation of the Rising Voltacklers. His story begins back when he had recently quit his job as a researcher, and the aspect ratio narrows to movie level as we enter flashback mode. A young Friede is fishing on Ludlow's ship, who doesn't look any younger in any of these flashbacks, and he hits Friede with a tough question. When is he going to take the next step in his life? Friede, being young and naive, doesn't really understand, but Ludlow gives him a pep talk as we see the two of them are on the coast of Porto Marinata in Paldea. Friede wonders what's next for he and Charizard, and just then he gets a call on his phone. You can tell we're in the past because it's not a Rotom phone, and the scene changes to Medali, where Friede is walking into the Treasure Eatery. The person who asked him to come here was Luca, Liko's mother. As we know, Luca was Friede's teacher back in the day, and this is the first time they've spoken in years. She explains that she got married and moved from Kanto to Paldea. As soon as her daughter is old enough though, she plans to go back into teaching. Of course, we know this daughter is Liko, but obviously Friede has no idea. Luca asks why he quit his job, and Friede says he didn't like being stuck in a lab, before declaring himself a genius Pokemon professor. Okay, kind of self-absorbed, but whatever. I mean, saying you know everything about Pokemon? Come on, Friede. Luca cuts right through this, saying he's at a loss of what to do next, and Friede has this eyes wide open moment because Luca just absolutely nailed his situation dead on. Friede tries to deflect, and oh yeah, I should mention that this whole time in the background, Larry has been absolutely pounding a medium serving of extra crispy Fire Blast style rice balls with some lemon garnish. What a legend. Anyways, back to these two, and Luca asks Friede to come meet someone. That's in the next morning, and Friede can barely be bothered to show up for this, and he's very confused when there's not even anybody there for him to meet. Luca directs his attention over to a nearby tree where a Pikachu is sleeping. As it wakes up, Friede dismisses this meeting, claiming to already know all there is to know about Pikachu. Luca tells him to be quiet as the sun begins to rise, and Friede is basically just like, yeah, it's time for a nap. Behind him, the Pikachu starts running in a circle while using Volt Tackle, and this creates a spiral thundercloud which catches Charizard's attention, so he yells at Friede to take a look. When he turns around, he literally falls out of his seat when he sees that Pikachu is flying? Yeah, apparently this Pikachu has been doing this for a while around here, and now Friede is interested. He approaches the Pikachu and wants to research it, but Pikachu isn't having any of it, and we see Cap hit his arms crossbows for the first time. In a funny moment, Luca comes running up after seeing this injury. Oh yeah, it's not Friede she cares about though. She wants to make sure that Pikachu is alright. Nice. Friede isn't giving up though, so he starts following Pikachu around. Pikachu isn't having any of it, so Friede tries a different approach, offering him some berries. Cap is still being stubborn and starts exercising instead, doing a workout to help strengthen his Pikachu's tail. After trying to act tough, Pikachu collapses, so Friede steps in with the berries. Pikachu considers it and then runs off with a handful of berries and starts chowing down. This was a small but funny detail since Murdoch did mention earlier that Cap eats basically anything, and yeah, that tracks. This little charade continues, with Friede and Pikachu both being stubborn in their own way. Yeah, you can tell these two are going to be perfect for each other. Just then, he gets a call from Luca, and Friede is excited to show her the progress he's made with Pikachu. They continue their conversation as Luca prepares some food at her home, and she compliments Friede, which she immediately rejects and pushes all the praise onto Pikachu, admitting that maybe Friede isn't some genius professor after all. So yeah, a very humbling moment for Friede, and while Luca is glad that this meeting could happen, it's time for another meeting as guess who runs in? It's tiny Liko just waking up to come say hello. She doesn't recognize the guy on the other end of the call, and Luca doesn't call Friede by name. The scene changes as time passes for a bit, and Friede is wondering why Cap pushes himself so far. Friede reviews the evidence. This Pikachu likes to fly at dawn every day, risking injury from Voltackle's recoil damage. But why? One morning, Friede is ready to call it quits. This research isn't getting him anywhere. He has to get moving himself. There's a spark in his eyes though. Friede has a plan. He hops on Charizard's back, ready for action. They rush off towards Pikachu's electric spiral. The animation is on point here, as you probably saw in the clip I played at the beginning of this video. I thought the music in this episode was also incredible, and really this moment is just the pinnacle of everything we've been building up to in this episode. Friede finally sees things from Pikachu's perspective. The sun rising above the horizon is a sight to behold. Friede finally understands Pikachu, and it was kind of funny watching him float in midair way longer than it should be physically possible. Friede hits him with a thumbs up, and Pikachu is as cool as ever in return, before Friede asks what's up with his tail, and oh yeah, now gravity starts to kick in. Fortunately, Friede catches Pikachu before he crash lands, and what a picturesque scene we have here. Friede says some cheesy stuff before getting down on one knee and proposing adventure to Pikachu, and he agrees, beating Friede's hand with his tail, and just like that, the two became partners. They set off together, with their first stop being back in Porto Marinata, where Friede asked Ludlow if he can use his boat. Ludlow is excited to see Friede made a new friend, and yeah, Pikachu has definitely caused a change in Friede. They set sail to Slateport City in the Hoenn region. Remember how Orla said she moved there? Yeah, Friede asks a huge favor of his old friend to turn Ludlow's ship, the Asagi, into an airship. Orla calls him an idiot for making such a request, but then she decides to give it her best shot and try. We see a short time-lapse of them getting to work. Fun seeing Orla's Metagross helping out as a Metang, and soon enough, the airship is complete in all its glory. Friede says the ship is looking pretty brave. Ah, yes, let's rename it the Brave Asagi. Orla is less than impressed with this name, and then she asks Friede how he plans on paying for this. Guess Friede didn't really think about that part, but Orla says forget it, just let me join you on the airship. Friede is in favor of this idea, and Orla asks if he plans on being the captain. This is when Friede pulls out this tiny little captain's hat, placing it on Pikachu's head, and here we go, Captain Pikachu is born. This is when Friede comes up with the name Rising Voltacklers, but it looks like the three of them still need to work on their secret handshake. Anyways, this brings Friede's story to an end, and we come back to the usual aspect ratio to see everyone in awe of his grand tail. Liko is especially shocked, mainly because she never knew her mother was once Friede's teacher, and he can't believe that was her main takeaway. Since they skipped the opening at the beginning of this episode, the opening theme starts playing now as the credits appear on screen. The episode is coming to a close as Friede admits that he owes Liko's mother for so much. Our three main heroes meet outside later that night, and they decide it's probably best they don't post the video about Friede's story, and now Liko has finally put it all together, that it's because of her mother that Friede met Captain Pikachu, and that any of them are together as part of the Rising Voltacklers in the first place. They all look up, and what do they see on the horizon? That's right, they finally made it to the Galar region, and that's how the episode comes to an end. We transition right from the opening theme into the ending, and man, I love this song. In fact, once I hit 10,000 subscribers, I will perform the Rising Voltacklers rap. Did anyone ask me to do this? No, not at all. But I love this song so much and will happily embarrass myself by singing it and posting the video on the internet if you all can help me reach 10,000 subscribers. There's so much to discuss about this episode. Where do I begin? Well, how about with the trivia fact? This episode aired on the 58th birthday of Ikuo Otani, the voice actress who has played several roles throughout the history of the anime, most notably Ash's Pikachu, and now she voices Captain Pikachu as well, so it's only fitting that a special episode like this airs on her birthday of all days. Diving into Cap's backstory now, and surely this means his Terra type is flying. I mean, that is to be revealed one day, right? Regardless, this episode did a great job telling the story of Friede and Cap meeting, and I have been waiting for a long time to hear the origin story behind the Rising Rising Voltacklers. I still have more questions about a lot of the characters, and there's so much more I want to know about the Rising Voltacklers, but this episode effectively accomplished exactly what it set out to do, telling us one important part of the story. And for that, I'm giving this episode an 8 out of 10 rating. That may be a lower rating than some of you were expecting. I mean, I know people who care a lot about animation loved this episode. Visually, it was amazing. There's no denying that. The animation doesn't really matter a whole lot to me, but I thought the music really added to my enjoyment of this episode for sure. And while I thoroughly enjoyed learning all of this backstory, I don't know, it wasn't like an all-time episode for me. It definitely was not my favorite episode of this series so far, and thus I cannot really rate it higher than an 8, but it was very, very good. One thing that really hit home for me was how a younger Friede was kind of lost in life, not knowing what to do. I mean, really, it was eerily similar to my life story, how Friede was well educated, had a lot of free time on his hands, but didn't really know what he wanted to do with his life. Now, Friede resolved the situation by beating a flying Pikachu and starting a worldwide adventure crew. I didn't have that same opportunity, so I just got a regular job instead. Oh well, maybe one day I'll get a phone call from someone that will change my life forever. There are plenty of little details that made this episode special, like Larry making his shocking anime debut, or the show dancing around Friede and Liko meeting for the first time, or how Pikachu wasn't a picky eater just like Murdoch said. Even Dot quoting Iono, I mean, all of this was great. Liko putting the pieces together at the end of the episode was important too. Now maybe she won't question herself so much whenever her pendant puts everyone in danger. She knows how special this group is, and she shouldn't feel reluctant about being a part of it. I do still want to learn more about other members of the Rising Voltacklers though, like what's Ludlow's backstory, and I need to hear more about Molly's connection to the Nurse Joy family. And how about Murdoch? Well, speaking of which, the next episode is going to be a Murdoch-focused episode, believe it or not. Our first step in Galar is apparently going to be a bakery, and as much as this may look like some filler content, you better believe I am excited for an over-the-top episode all about baking. That sounds like the perfect amount of ridiculousness to me. Let me know what you thought about this episode down in the comments, and be sure to like this video and hit subscribe if you haven't already. I better go start practicing my Rising Voltacklers rap for when I hit 10,000 subscribers. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.